Hi, I'm Rob with We Keep You Cycling, and we're going to be extreme stress testing the Trico iron case. Now, for the better part of 20 years, the Trico case has been your go-to hard-shelled case. And in all normal scenarios, it provides outstanding protection. But here, we're going to be pushing it beyond the limits to see how well the design does in out-of-this-world testing. So, admittedly, we couldn't find a guinea pig to give us their expensive carbon bike and wheels. So the next substitute is eggs. Now eggs will represent the same weight, approximately 15 pounds, and they'll be more fragile in nature. We're using a total of 15 pounds because of the amount of energy we hope that the impact or crash testing will have to absorb so that it's not particularly light, and we're using eggs because they're particularly fragile when hit. They're bagged so we can quickly identify which dozen has failed, and the cardboard container that they're in will be a marginal protection for them, likely being no greater in total strength than a frame. So on net, we're still expecting the dozen of eggs to be more delicate than your wheels or frame, and we're making sure the weight is correct and the layup is approximating a frame and wheel setup so we can get the best results possible. In today's testing, we're going to drag it behind a truck down a dirt road for a few miles. We're going to blowtorch it to see if we can burn through the case and how long it takes. And then the final attempt to destroy the contents inside is going to be to drive over it with a Ford F-250 truck. Down the dirt road, I'm expecting to see a fair bit of scratching, of course, and I'm interested to see if the rocks that should be there for us to hit puncture the bottom side of the case and damage the eggs inside. It's never been done before, so let's take a look. So after a few miles at the back of our truck over a dirt road, I'm interested to see that only one of the straps has been stripped off. Looks like it just took a lot of abuse, but we've left it attached so we can open it with you here. The moment of truth is before us. Dun dun dun. So it looks like none of the eggs up top, or where your wheels would go, are damaged. This is impressive. Of course, they shifted naturally because they're not wheels. But that's impressive. We don't have any damage up top. Let's see what happened underneath. Ah! We've got no damaged eggs after several miles on this road. That is something else. We've got nothing damaged on the wheels, nothing damaged for the frame, and let's just show you the kind of abuse this case took. So it is all marred up. So at the front here, we've got some straps that need replacing. Looks like they just couldn't take the abuse. Broken clip. Oddly enough, the middle strap is still good. And it looks like you could use the back strap. It just got torn up on the road. But surprisingly enough, the wheels are still good. The underside of the case shows a lot of deep gashes. Signs of impact from the rocks we were going over. A lot more of these deep gashes, but none of them penetrated the inside of the case. certainly a testament to Trico's strength here. So the results of that drag test were quite impressive. First, none of the rocks ended up puncturing the Trico case, and we ended up doing about 2.5 miles, which is far greater than the initial mile we had anticipated. So for the 2.5 times the distance and the surprisingly good condition of the Trico case, I was thoroughly impressed with this test. When we were brainstorming ideas of extreme situations to put a case through, of course the pyro in us came out and said, how could we fire test a Trico case? And we thought about building a bonfire and burning the case and trying to fry some eggs inside. But you'd be surprised the type of permits are required to get that done. So we settled for an isolated blowtorch test on the corner. Now my prediction is that it's going to burn through in about 10 or 15 seconds. I know that blowtorch is pretty hot, and I know that plastic is only so many millimeters thick. And I'm anticipating that that blowtorch will literally burn through the size of the flame. Let's take a look. We got ourselves a blowtorch here, and we're going to test the corner here to see how long it takes to burn through. Are we ready? We've got some pretty serious deforming happening here. And we're through. So the little pyro in me was sort of disappointed that the case didn't have some more flamboyant properties to it. I was sort of hoping that as that plastic melted, it would turn to a wax-based kind of experience, that we'd see flames and it would pop and hiss for us. But the reality is the Trico case was actually fairly predictable. While it was melting, it took about 45 seconds for us to put a hole through the corner there. And when we removed the heat, the case dried up and it didn't continue to burn. So the case fared very well, but in all honesty, I was a little disappointed. I thought we were going to see that plastic burst into flames, the foam inside having been exposed to direct flame, catch on fire, and it didn't happen. You always see footage of cars being crushed by monster trucks, and a whole lot of us just get so much joy out of seeing items crushed by big tires. So we picked up an old Ford F-250 to run over the Trico iron case. Now, my prediction is that it's going to be totally obliterated. I'm not sure how that Trico case is going to take all that weight on a small area and not just basically cut right through the case, destroying the contents. So let's take a look and see what happened. Explore it! Explore it! With the smell of diesel in the air, I was with bated breath watching that Trico case get run over by that Ford. Now, I must admit, I sat there, I watched in much anticipation to see this case literally split in two, and it didn't happen. So the moment of truth after that truck, it looked pretty bad. A lot of flex. Let's see what happened. Ooh, down the middle. We've got basically destroyed eggs. Lots of cracking going on there, but not as bad as I expected. We got bending of the case. This case is out of commission for sure. Now let's see what happens to the frame. Oddly enough, we've got no broken eggs where the frame would be. So as strange as this would seem, It would seem as though the truck would take the wheels out and your frame would be intact. That is something else. When we opened up the case, we found that the eggs that represented the wheels were damaged and nothing else. The case was slightly flexed, but could have still been used. The plastic didn't break, and for the type of testing, I'd say it fared pretty well. In the real world scenario, it would be driven over and you'd have to replace your wheel set, with the frame, being the most expensive item likely, being intact. And you'd replace a set of wheels and be back to normal. I was sort of disappointed that it wasn't more of a catastrophic failure or a complete destruction of the contents inside. So in this set of testing where we dragged it down a dirt road for a few miles, we burn tested it, and we drove over it with a truck, I must admit that I'm kind of underwhelmed with the results. I was expecting in this extreme testing to see extreme failures. And the case really performed well in both the drag test and the fire test, with minor failure with being driven over. This is probably a testament to the design characteristics of the case that use a clamshell with 3 layers of foam to provide structural rigidity together, the 2 pieces being held in place over the object, and the 3 layers of foam separating impact from the contents. I'm Rob with We Keep You Cycling, and this was our first part in a series called Will It Break, where we will be extreme testing the Trico case in scenarios that you will never put it through. If you have any questions about the Trico case or any of the travel cases we carry, drop us a line or email us info@wekeepyoucycling.com.